Good night, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Nara Promotions, the Real Deal podcast show. Always remember to pray going out, pray coming in, and always remember God is always in control. I'm telling you, it's a beautiful thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Saturday Night Vibe, and we say welcome back to each and every one. I'm telling you. It's a beautiful thing as we continue on our global journey. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember to donate to Nara Promotions podcast show. This keeps the family-friendly show alive. You can look down below and you will find ways to donate. Tonight we have a packed show as usual, and we're going to start out with our prayer and also our inspiration. We're going to give you the Nara anthem. We're going to be talking about President Donald Trump his address to the World Economic Forum. If you were sleeping, you've got to listen to this because it is extremely important that you listen carefully what the leader of the free world, what he's saying according to the direction he wants to lead the world. We're going to look at Andrew Holness. We're going to take a snippet of his address to the United Nations 80th session that was last year, September. We're going to look at his address to Parliament about the $6.7 billion that the U.S. is investing. We're going to be talking about the snowstorm that is going on right here in the U.S. this weekend as we speak. We're going to be talking about U.S. immigration. We're going to be answering some questions that is swirling around in the minds of people who are here in the U.S. and outside the United States. We're going to be talking on a topic, we're going to be briefly talking on a topic about women and their role in the present time in this world and the future. Also, we'll be talking about some Jamaican community news, and also I'll give you some updates on the former hourly workers decision. Jack Sauer Awards is loading. And we're going to be talking about a couple of events and also a few places in South Central Jamaica that you must visit if you're on the island. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Nara Promotions, the Real Deal podcast show. It's a beautiful thing. So, as we move into our show, we want to touch on a prayer. This prayer is about giving thanks. The main reason why you should give thanks. And we say all those who are chiming in. And we see, okay. Becky R5Y, welcome to the show. I'm telling you, it's a beautiful thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into our prayer first of all. Let's share. We always start with a prayer, and we're gonna go into the show after that. So, let's take that into consideration. So here we go. Let's bring that to the forefront, and then we move from there. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start with our prayer. Here we go.
Wait, don't scroll. Let's have our morning prayer together. Father, today, as I'm lifting up my brothers and sisters, really, I want to say thank you. Thank you for not giving us all that we deserve, but providing mercy and grace. Thank you for the gift of salvation. Thank you Father, for sending Jesus, and Jesus for the sacrifice that you made on Calvary. Help us today to be grateful for what we've received, and because of that, to be a blessing to someone else. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen, ladies and gentlemen. Amen. And we're going to move into our inspiration. This is about, this is actually an advice to all of you. So this is positive. Let's dive into that. It's a beautiful thing. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's share that with you. And let's move on with the show after that. Here we go.
If you think the price of winning is too high, wait till you get the bill from regret. And that bill from regret is generational.
When you can't control what's happening to you, control how you respond to it. That's where your power is.
Bravery is not the absence of fear. Bravery is feeling fear and moving forward anyway.
The greatest version of you is not the I can do anything version of you. The greatest version of you is the disciplined version of you. The greatest version of you is the version that has parameters. No, I don't do that. I don't drink that. I don't go there with these people. I'm focused.
When it feels scary to jump, Ian, that is exactly when you jump. Otherwise, you end up staying in the same place your whole life.
What if we have that kind of attitude? The car's repossessed. Nobody believes in you. You've lost again and again and again. The lights are cut off, but you're still looking at your dream, reviewing it every day and saying to yourself, it's not over until I win.
But remember, dreams without goals are just dreams.
I have never met anybody who became incredibly successful in any area of their life until they had suffered and sweated and sacrificed and kept their focus and fought through tears and trials and tests. And if you have a dream and you commit to it, it will come to pass.
And that's absolutely true. Welcome back to the show. This is Naram Promotions, the Real Deal podcast show, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm telling you, it's a powerful show tonight. So stay tuned. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and click that notification bell. I'm telling you, it's a beautiful thing. So let's dive into the Naram anthem, and then we'll dive into the show. Here we go. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's bring that up. And let's get that on our screen. Here we go. Let's share that with you. And let's bring that onto my screen here. Are you ready? Here we go.
Talk shit. I don't talk to hypocrites.
Oh, yeah. Let's get it cranking. It's loading. Loading. Let's start that again. Here we go. There it is, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't care if they talk shit. I don't talk to hypocrites. If you hate me, that's just fine. Go on down and get in.
You got to get in line. Here we go. My computer is running slow tonight, but it is here. So let's get it going. All right. That's the internet acting up, but we're here. There you go.
Tell me what I need, and it sure ain't nothing good for me. Don't care what they say, it's all just talk. Gonna head my way and walk my walk. They try to bend me, but I won't break. I pay no mind to the noise they make. I keep my head, I hold my ground. Ain't no man gonna knock me down. They can swing, but I won't flinch. I was built for times like this, so talk your shit, but be aware. I don't care.
Goodness gracious me. Welcome back to Naram Promotions, the Real Deal podcast show. I'm telling you. Energetic tonight. It's a really, really good show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. as we dive into the first segment, we're going to be talking about the World Economic Forum, what it means. You know what I mean? So we're going to briefly touch on that. And the President of the United States laid out a track, and I want you to listen to what he has to say, and we'll talk about it on the other side of the video. So here we go. Let's check this out.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I guess we don't have enough seats today. Wow. In the last quarter century, a sitting president of the United States has come to Davos only twice. Both times it was Donald Trump. So when I asked to serve in this new role that I have, he was one of the first leaders I called and invited to return. I first met the president about 25 years ago, but I worked most closely with him during the early months of COVID. This was March 2020. Markets were under extreme stress. Some economists were warning we could be headed towards a second Great Depression. What stood out to me during the extraordinary period was a president's willingness to bring together people from governments, from business, across institutions, across perspective, to think differently, and importantly, to act decisively. That instinct to act, especially in pivotal moments, is one reason I think he values the World Economic Forum. It is a unique institution that brings together the largest combination of government officials, business leaders, technology leaders, civil society and NGO leaders anywhere in the world for a genuine dialogue, and particularly importantly this year. Thankfully, this group is meeting under better economic circumstances than during the pandemic. But once again, we're facing very serious different economic conditions around the world. One of the central challenges that is impacting me is how capitalism can benefit more, and how can we broaden our global economy for greater and greater participation. That is a question where the president has shown real leadership through investing in infrastructure, reducing barriers to growth, and initiatives like the Trump account, designed to give more Americans a direct stake in the growth of the U.S. economy. As he enters the second year of his second term, we are interested in hearing his plans for 2026 and beyond, and will no doubt create more and more conversation. And that's what the forum is about, a serious conversation in the spirit of dialogue. Discussions where the world is headed, where are we going? And these discussions would be incomplete without the President of the United States, the most important leader in the world. We appreciate him here. So let me introduce and welcome back to Davos the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we lost on the screen, and we're going to continue where we left off. It was a break in transmission. However, nothing to fear. I'm just resetting the whole system here right, as we speak, so that we can continue with the World Economic Forum as President Donald Trump was entering. The system went down. Powerful man. Okay, so let's get back to it, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna get back into it right now. Here we go. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Donald J. Trump.
Okay.
Unravel the strategic complexity of AI in business.
Let's get that off.
Understand
the screen.
human AI synergy.
Here we go.
Well, thank you very much, Larry. It's great to be back in beautiful Davos, Switzerland, and to address so many respected business leaders, so many friends, few enemies, and all of the distinguished guests. It's a who's who, I will say that. I've come to this year's World Economic Forum with truly phenomenal news from America. Yesterday marked the one-year anniversary of my inauguration, and today, after 12 months back in the White House, our economy is booming, growth is exploding, productivity is surging, investment is soaring, incomes are rising, inflation has been defeated, our previously open and dangerous border is closed and virtually impenetrable, and the United States is in the midst of the fastest and most dramatic economic turnaround in our country's history. Under the Biden administration, America was plagued by the nightmare of stagflation, meaning low growth and high inflation, a recipe for misery, failure, and decline. But now, after just 1 year of my policies, we are witnessing the exact opposite: virtually no inflation and extraordinarily high economic growth. Growth like I believe you'll see very shortly our country has never seen before, perhaps no country has ever seen before. Over the past 3 months, core inflation has been just 1.6%. Meanwhile, fourth quarter growth is projected to be 5.4%, far greater than anybody other than myself and a few others had predicted. Since the election, the stock market has set 52 all-time high records. So that's in 1 year, 52 records, adding $9 trillion in value to retirement accounts, 401ks, and people's savings. People are doing very well. They're very happy with me. Since my inauguration, we've lifted more than 1.2 million people off of food stamps, and after 4 years in which Biden secured less than $1 trillion of new investment in our country. Think of that, $1 trillion, substantially less than that. In 4 years, we've secured commitments for a record-breaking $18 trillion, and we think when the final numbers come out, they'll be closer to $20 trillion of investment. That's never been done by any country at any time, not even close. Just over 1 year ago, under the radical left Democrats, we were a dead country. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. Losing windmills, we're taking them down and not approving any. Instead of empowering bureaucrats, we're firing them, and they're going out and getting jobs in the private sector for 2 and 3 times what they were making in government. So they started off hating me when we fired them, and now they love me.
So let's get that off the screen, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. And get back to regular program.
Instead of raising taxes on domestic producers, we're lowering them and raising tariffs on foreign nations to pay for the damage that they've caused. In 12 months, we have removed over 270,000 bureaucrats from the federal payrolls, the largest single-year reduction in government employment since the end of World War II. Nobody thought that was coming, but we had no choice. To make a country great, you can't have all federal jobs. We've cut federal spending by $100 billion and slashed the federal budget deficit by 27% in the single year. It's going to go down quite a bit more from that, driving inflation way down from the record highs of the Biden administration. Every month, they went up and up and up. I promised to cut 10 old regulations for every single new regulation, but instead I've cut, actually till this point, 129 regulations for every one new regulation approved. So every time they come in with a new regulation, we do at least 10, but so far it's averaging out to 129, if you can believe it. In July, we passed the largest tax cuts in American history, including no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. We also provided 100% expensing. That's the one they like. And bonus depreciation for all new equipment and cap up by 41%. And that number is really going to skyrocket right now because that's during a process that they're putting in to get their approvals. And we've given very, very quick, fast approvals. In the process, we've made historic trade deals with partners covering 40% of all U.S. trade. Some of the greatest companies and countries in the world. We have countries as our partner too. The European nations, Japan, South Korea. They're our partners. They've gone into massive deals with us, especially on oil and gas. And these agreements raise growth and cause stock markets to boom, not only in the U.S., but virtually every country that came to make a deal because, as you've learned, when the United States goes up, you follow. In most states, then we'll soon be averaging less than $2 a gallon. In many places, it's already down even lower, $1.95 a gallon. Numerous states are at $1.99, numbers that nobody has heard for years. Actually, since my last administration, we got it down to around those numbers. I've signed an order directing and approval of many new nuclear reactors. We're going heavy into nuclear. I was not a big fan because I didn't like the risk, the danger, but they have the progress they've made with nuclear is unbelievable. And the safety progress they've made is incredible. We're very much into the world of nuclear energy, and we can have it now at good prices and very, very safe. And we're leading the world in AI by a lot. We're leading China by a lot. I think President Xi respects what we've done, in part because I've allowed these big companies building these massive buildings to build their own electric capacity. They're building their own power plants, which when added up is more than any country anywhere in the world is doing. I read recently an article in the Wall Street Journal that China's creating so much energy, and they are. You got to hand it to them. But we're creating as much or more, and we're letting them do that. I'm very proud of it. It was my idea. I said, you can't create this much energy. We needed more than double the energy currently in the country just to take care of the AI plants. And I said, we can't do that. We have an old grid system. And I came up with the idea, you know, you people are brilliant. You have a lot of money. Let's see what you can do. You can build your own electric generating plants. And they looked at me. They didn't believe me. All of the names that are, I think, in the room right now, if you want to know the truth, they didn't believe it. And I said, no, you can't. They came back 2 weeks and they didn't have the plant. They said, we thought you were kidding. I said, no, not only am I not kidding, you're going to have your approvals within 2 weeks. I always say nuclear will take 3 weeks. But most aren't going that. They're going oil and gas. They're even going coal in some cases. Because of my landslide election victory, the United States avoided the catastrophic energy collapse, which befell every European nation that pursued the Green New Scam, perhaps the greatest hoax in history. The Green New Scam, windmills all over the place, destroy your land, destroy your land. Every time that goes around, you lose $1,000. You're supposed to make money with energy, not lose money. Here in Europe, we've seen the fate that the radical left tried to impose on America. They tried very hard. Germany now generates 22% less electricity than it did in 2017. And it's not the current chancellor's fault. He's solving the problem. He's going to do a great job. But what they did before he got there, I guess that's why he got there. And electricity prices are 64% higher. The United Kingdom produces just 1/3 of the total energy from all sources that it did in 1999. Think of that, 1/3. And they're sitting on top of the North Sea, one of the greatest reserves anywhere in the world, but they don't use it. And that's one reason why their energy has reached catastrophically low levels with equally high prices. High prices, very low levels. Think of that, 1/3. And you're sitting on top of the North Sea, and they like to say, well, you know, that's depleted. It's not depleted. It's got 500 years. They haven't even found the oil. The North Sea is incredible. They don't let anybody drill. Environmentally, they don't let them drill. They make it impossible for the oil companies to go. They take 92% of the revenues. So the oil companies say, we can't do it. They came to see me. Is there anything you can do? I want Europe to do great. I want UK to do great. They're sitting on one of the greatest energy sources in the world, and they don't use it. In fact, their electricity prices have soared 139%. There are windmills all over Europe. There are windmills all over the place, and they are losers. One thing I've noticed is that the more windmills a country has, the more money that country loses and the worse that country is doing. China makes almost all of the windmills, and yet I haven't been able to find any wind farms in China. Did you ever think of that? It's a good way of looking at it. They're smart. China's very smart. They make them, they sell them for a fortune. They sell them to the stupid people that buy them, but they don't use them themselves. They put up a couple of big wind farms, but they don't use them. They just put them up to show people what they could look like. They don't spin. They don't do anything. They use a thing called coal mostly. But China goes with the coal. They go with oil and gas. They're starting to look at nuclear a little bit, and they're doing just fine. They make a fortune selling the windmills, though, and I think really that's one that they wouldn't be surprised if it stopped. They are shocked that it continues to go. They're very friendly with me. They're shocked that people continue to buy those damn things. They killed the birds. They ruin your landscapes. Other than that, I think they're fabulous, by the way. Stupid people buy them. The consequences of such destructive policies have been stark, including lower economic growth, lower standards of living, lower birth rates, more socially disruptive migration, more vulnerability to hostile foreign adversaries, and much, much smaller militaries. The United States cares greatly about the people of Europe. We really do. I mean, look, I am derived from Europe. Scotland and Germany, 100% Scotland, my mother, 100% German, my father. And we believe deeply in the bonds we share with Europe as a civilization. I want to see it do great. That's why issues like energy, trade, immigration, and economic growth must be central concerns to anyone who wants to see a strong and united West, because Europe and those countries have to do their thing. They have to get out of the culture that they've created over the last 10 years. It's horrible what they're doing to themselves. They're destroying themselves. It's beautiful, beautiful places. We want strong allies, not seriously weakened ones. We want Europe to be strong. Ultimately, these are matters of national security, and perhaps no current issue makes the situation more clear than what's currently going on with Greenland. Would you like me to say a few words of Greenland? I was going to leave it out of the speech, but I think I would have been reviewed very negatively. I have tremendous respect for both the people of Greenland and the people of Denmark, tremendous respect. But every NATO ally has an obligation to be able to defend their own territory. And the fact is, no nation or group of nations is in any position to be able to secure Greenland other than the United States. We're a great power, much greater than people even understand. I think they found that out 2 weeks ago in Venezuela. We saw this in World War II, when Denmark fell to Germany after just 6 hours of fighting and was totally unable to defend either itself or Greenland. So the United States was then compelled, we did it, we felt an obligation to do it, to send our own forces to hold the Greenland territory, and hold it we did at great cost.
Work today every day. People juggle so many different.
Let's get that off our screen and go back to regular program.
Entering our hemisphere, and we've done it very successfully. We've never been stronger than we are now. That's why American presidents have sought to purchase Greenland for nearly 2 centuries. You know, for 2 centuries, they've been trying to do it. They should have kept it after World War II, but they had a different president. That's all right. People think differently. Much more necessary now than it was at that time, however. In 2019, Denmark said that they would spend over $200 million to strengthen Greenland's defenses. But as you know, they spent less than 1% of that amount. 1%, there's no sign of Denmark there. And I say that with great respect for Denmark, whose people I love, whose leaders are very good. It's the United States alone that can protect this giant mass of land, this giant piece of ice, develop it and improve it and make it so that it's good for Europe and safe for Europe and good for us. And that's the reason I'm seeking immediate negotiations to once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States, just as we have acquired many other territories throughout our history, as many of the European nations have. They've acquired, there's nothing wrong with it. Many of them, some went in reverse, actually, if you look. Some had great, vast wealth, great, vast lands all over the world. They went in reverse. They're stuck back where they started. That happens too. But some grow. But this would not be a threat to NATO. This would greatly enhance the security of the entire alliance, the NATO alliance. The United States is treated very unfairly by NATO. I want to tell you that. And when you think about it, nobody can dispute it. We give so much and we get so.
Monday.com, the opposite of any work platform we tried in the past.
So let's get that off the screen, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to wrap this up in a second. Here you go.
Work on Ukraine. We don't. The United States is very far away. We have a big, beautiful ocean separating us. We have nothing to do with it. Until I came along, NATO was only supposed to pay 2% of GDP, but they weren't paying. Most of the countries weren't paying anything. The United States was paying for virtually 100% of NATO. And I got that stopped. I said, that's not fair. But then more importantly, I got NATO to pay 5%, and now they were paying, and now they are paying. So something nobody said was possible. They said, we will never go up higher than 2%. But they went to 5%, and now they're paying the 5. They didn't pay the 2, and now they're paying the 5. And they're stronger for it, and they have an excellent, by the way, Secretary General, who's possibly in the room. Mark, are you here? Yes, he's here. Hello, Mark. We never asked for anything, and we never got anything. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest statement I made, because people thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force. All the United States is asking for is a place called Greenland, where we already had it as a trustee, but respectfully returned it back to Denmark not long ago after we defeated the Germans, the Japanese, the Italians, and others in World War II. We gave it back to them. We were a powerful force then, but we are a much more powerful force now. After I rebuilt the military in my first term and continue to do so today, we have a budget of $1.5 trillion. We're bringing back battleships. The battleship is 100 times more powerful than the great battleships you saw in World War II, those great, big, gorgeous ships, the Missouri, the Iowa, the Alabama. Because I thought maybe we could take them out of mothballs. They said, no, sir, these ships are 100, think of that, 100 times more powerful than those big, big, magnificent pieces of art that you saw so many times ago, that you still see on television. You say, wow, what a force. 100 times, each ship 100 times more powerful than the big battleships of the past. So that was the end of the mothball story. So what we have gotten out of NATO is nothing. except to protect Europe from the Soviet Union and now Russia. I mean, we've helped them for so many years. We've never gotten anything, except we pay for NATO. And we paid for many years until I came along. We paid for, in my opinion, 100% of NATO because they weren't paying their bills. And all we're asking for is to get Greenland, including right title and ownership, because you need the ownership to defend it. You can't defend it on a lease. Number one, legally, it's not defensible that way, totally. And number two, psychologically, who the hell wants to defend a license agreement or a lease, which is a large piece of ice in the middle of the ocean where if there is a war, much of the action will take place on that piece of ice. Think of it. Those missiles would be flying right over the center of that piece of ice. All we want from Denmark for national and international security and to keep our very energetic and dangerous potential enemies at bay is this land on which we're going to build the greatest golden dome ever built. We're building a golden dome that's going to, just by its very nature, going to be defending Canada. Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your prime minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. But they should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements. What we did for Israel was amazing, but that's nothing compared to what we have planned for the United States, Canada, and the rest of the world. We are going to build a dome like no other. We did it for Israel. And by the way, I told Bibi, stop taking credit for the dome. That's our technology. That's our stuff. But they had a lot of courage, and they were good fighters, and they did a good job, and we wiped out the Iran nuclear threat like nobody can believe. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. That, Venezuela, taking down Soleimani, wiping out al-Baghdadi when he tried to reinstitute ISIS. We did a lot. I did a lot of big things, all perfectly executed. Everyone was perfectly executed. Somebody told me that, a military expert told me, sir, everything you've done has been perfectly executed. I said, I know. So other presidents have spent, whether foolishly or not, trillions and trillions of dollars on NATO and gotten absolutely nothing in return. We've never asked for anything. It's always a one-way street. Now they want us to help them with Ukraine. And then we say, we're going to. I'm really helping, not even them. I want to see, last week, if you saw, it was 10,000 soldiers, but last month it was 31,000 soldiers died. 31,000. That's this room times, the number of people in this room times 30. Think of it, 30,000.
So as you can continue to watch that on your various medias, there's a lot of statements the President of the United States made, and also called out a lot of nations and also NATO and other allies to participate and give their fair share. We're going to go into the second segment. It was a great speech. Big up to President Donald Trump and telling it was a beautiful thing. We called out also Canada and also other nations, you know what I mean? And he expressed his interest in Greenland. And that is also in some advanced stage. I'll talk about that come next week. Charlie James, T6X, I won't put your comment up here. I say keep it respectful. The President of the United States is the leader of the free world, and we must also give respect where respect is due. He's now the leader of the United States and a leader of the free world, and he's making decisions that are life-changing. So, we can have that debate on a later date. If you call me personally, then we can have a prelude to that discussion to make sure that discussion remains respectful. Okay, so thank you for being a part of the show. So we're going into the second segment, and what I wanted to point out to many of you is the contrast. And we're going to take another leader of, and that's Andrew Holness, addressing the United Nations. And there's a stark contrast between what he's saying and what the president lined out. And I wanted to give you a little snippet of that so that you can see the contrast. And then I'm going to do another video where he's praising the U.S. investment in Jamaica. So I hope you get the message of what it's saying. I'm going to talk about that afterwards. The time has been cut because we had a break in transmission. So we lost some time, but we can get caught up. And if not, then we can continue come next week. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to share this with you so you can see the contrast of what was said last September when Prime Minister Andrew Holness addressed the United Nations. That was in September of last year, if I remember right. And we're going to touch on that right now.
The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Andrew Holness, Prime Minister, Minister for Defense, and Minister for Economic Growth and Job Creation of Jamaica. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
Madam President, Excellencies, on behalf of Jamaica, I extend warm congratulations to you, Madam President, on your election to preside over this landmark 80th session of the General Assembly. Just last week, Jamaica marked 63 years as a proud member of the United Nations. As we celebrate the UN's 80th anniversary, we reaffirm our unwavering commitment to the principles of the UN Charter. From decolonization to peacekeeping, from eradicating diseases to promoting human rights, the UN has achieved remarkable success over these past 8 decades. Yet, as we confront global challenges, including pandemics, climate change, armed conflict, and persistent poverty, we must acknowledge that our multilateral system requires urgent reform and revitalization to meet the needs of the 21st century. The UN 80 initiative is an opportunity to strengthen multilateralism with concrete action, institutional reform, and renewed political will. We must build a system that is more democratic, representative, and responsive to evolving challenges. Jamaica is honored that our permanent representative is co-chairing the working group on UN 80 mandate implementation review, along with the permanent representative of New Zealand, and we look forward to meaningful outcomes. Madam President, Jamaica believes in a future where multilateralism works for all, where no country is too small to be heard, where the concerns of small islands facing rising seas are addressed, where the benefits of globalization are equitably shared, and where international cooperation is based on respect for the sovereignty of each nation. Climate change, Madam President, is not a distant threat or an academic consideration. It is a daily reality for small island developing states like Jamaica. Frequent hurricanes, droughts, and erratic rainfall destroy infrastructure, displace communities, and set back decades of hard-fought progress. Jamaica has demonstrated unwavering leadership in climate action despite our limited resources. We have committed to achieving net zero emissions by 2050 and have implemented our national adaptation plan with specific measures to build resilience across key sectors, and we are on track to achieve our renewable energy target of 50% by 2030. However, our efforts and those of other SIDS are severely constrained by the lack of predictable access to financing. The promise of $100 billion annually remains unfulfilled. The Loss and Damage Fund, established at COP28, was historic, yet its initial capitalization of $800 million is grossly inadequate. Developed countries must honor their commitments and scale up climate finance, recognizing that adaptation is a necessity for the survival of small island developing states. The global financing system remains fundamentally flawed. It penalizes reforming economies like Jamaica with high borrowing costs while ignoring our vulnerabilities. Through sacrifice, discipline, and sound management, Jamaica has reduced its debt to GDP ratio from 144% to now 62%. Yet we remain locked out of concessional financing because of outdated metrics based solely on per capita income. Jamaica supports the application of the Multidimensional Vulnerability Index that more accurately assesses countries' development needs and their eligibility for concessional financing. Jamaica also strongly supports innovative financing mechanisms, including debt for climate swaps, debt for nature swaps, and blended finance instruments that can unlock private sector investments in sustainable development projects while reducing debt burdens. We welcome initiatives such as the IMF's Resilience and Sustainability Trust and call for its expansion to support more countries in building climate resilience. Madam President, multilateralism must deliver fairness for all countries to believe that constructive dialogue and engagement offers the best path forward for all countries. That is the case, Madam President, for the people of Cuba, so that they may be able to fully participate in the global economy. We encourage continued domestic reform in Cuba and greater integration into international systems, supported by policies that enable progress rather than isolation. Madam President, Jamaica once again condemns the heinous October 7, 2023 attack on Israel and is deeply horrified by the devastating humanitarian consequences of the counteroffensive in the Palestinian territories. A just and peaceful resolution to the conflict is only possible through diplomacy and dialogue. We continue to support United Nations Security Council Resolution 242 and support the call for a ceasefire agreement that includes the release of all remaining hostages and definitively ending the protracted war and human suffering. Madam President, political instability, gang violence, and humanitarian crises in Haiti affect not only the Haitian people, but the entire region. As current chair of CARICOM, Jamaica has led and participated in efforts to restore peace and constitutional order in Haiti. Last year, we welcomed and participated in the deployment of the Multinational Security Support Mission to Haiti, and we commend Kenya's leadership in this initiative. Despite progress made, the situation remains dire. As we contemplate next steps, we urge member states, especially those in the Security Council, to operationalize the recommendations made by the Secretary General for a transition to a more robust hybrid mechanism to deal with the situation in Haiti. We call on member states to provide the necessary financial and logistic support to ensure the success of this initiative. But security operations alone will not suffice. Haiti's governance deficit and fragile institutional framework must be addressed. Once stability is restored, the international community must help rebuild democratic institutions, ensure free and fair elections, expand humanitarian relief, and invest in infrastructure to support long-term stability. Haiti's recovery requires sustained global support. Madam President, the Haitian crisis has laid bare a wider truth. Transnational criminal networks involved in cybercrime, trafficking arms, narcotics, and people, organizing violence and destabilizing institutions, are an existential threat to states. Gangs are now global syndicates with resources that rival nation states. Jamaica has made significant progress in tackling gangs and reducing our homicide rate by more than 50% in recent years. But we know that unless these networks are totally dismantled, our gains remain fragile. This is why we call for nothing less than a global war on gangs, a coordinated international campaign to cut off the flow of weapons, money, and the influence that sustains them. This requires deeper engagement from all member states. We urge full implementation of the UN Program of Action on Small Arms and Light Weapons and the International Tracing Instrument. Major arms exporting countries must tighten export controls, strengthen end-use monitoring, and ensure rigorous post-delivery verification. Jamaica welcomes cooperation with all partners in this fight, including the interdiction of drug trafficking vessels, provided that such operations are carried out with full respect for international law, human rights, and with the coordination and collaboration of the countries of the region. The Caribbean has created regional security mechanisms, but these efforts alone cannot match the scale of the threat. What we need is a unified front with the same urgency, resources, and coordination the world has applied to terrorism. Only then can we turn the Caribbean, and indeed the wider region, into a true zone of peace. Madam President, at this 80th session, let us revitalize multilateralism and recommit to building a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable world. The challenges before us, climate change, debt, poverty, conflicts, and crime, are formidable. But our capacity for collective action is greater. Jamaica has shown that with sound policies, fiscal discipline, and good governance, small nations can achieve great progress. But to build on this progress, we need an international system that is fair, inclusive, and responsive. Let us not leave this assembly with words alone, but with commitments that deliver real change. Jamaica stands ready to work with all member states in partnership and solidarity to create a future defined by peace, prosperity, and dignity for all. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, members.
I tell you, great speech, Andrew Holness. Prime Minister Andrew Holness made a great speech there, but I want you to see where his speech aligns with the U.S. policies and direction and also the contrast regarding renewable energies and all that. So look into it. You can rewind it and think again, and we can have a discussion on that, as we go along. But there's a great contrast in some of what is said, and but also I wanted to highlight this speech he made in Parliament sometime, I think it was last year, when he addressed Parliament. Was it Parliament he addressed? And I wanted to bring that forward when he talked about that $6.7 billion US investment in the country by the US. And that was significant after the hurricane, I think it was. So let's look at that, and then we'll move on from there. The show continues.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to honor the House on the unprecedented level of international financial support mobilized for Jamaica following Hurricane Melissa, and to outline how this support aligns with our structured, disciplined, and forward-looking national reconstruction strategy. Madam Speaker, the international community has responded to Jamaica with remarkable solidarity, urgency, and confidence. Yesterday, the 1st of December 2025, the international financial institutions, the IMF, the World Bank Group, the Inter-American Development Bank, the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean Development Bank, jointly announced a 3-year coordinated financing package of up to $6.7 billion to support Jamaica's US dollars, to support Jamaica's recovery, reconstruction, and long-term resilience. Madam Speaker, even before the announcement of this substantial international financing package, we already had in place a multi-layered disaster risk financing framework, which was the product of years of strategic planning, disciplined financial management, and proactive investment in resilience. This framework enabled rapid early response and the immediate mobilization of liquidity to meet the most urgent needs following Hurricane Melissa within days. Jamaica activated several instruments across our risk financing architecture. We had approximately Jamaican $5.3 billion in the contingencies fund and $1 billion in the National Natural Disaster Reserve Fund. We received US $91 million from the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, CRIF, one of the largest payouts ever made in the region. And then we had the US $150 million under the catastrophe bond, triggered immediately based upon parametric thresholds. In addition, we had US $285 million available through the IDB's contingent credit facility for rapid liquidity support, which was upsized to $300 million, and US $42 million scalable to US $84 million available on request under the World Bank's catastrophe deferred drawdown option. Madam Speaker, this totals approximately US $662 million in liquidity that was available almost immediately following the hurricane. This is the very definition of planning, preparedness, and responsible governance. Our multi-layered approach ensured that Jamaica did not wait helplessly for external support. We were prepared and ready to act, ready to deliver, and ready to protect our people.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll follow the economic progress of Jamaica and see how the recovery goes over the next 3 to 5 years. So it's going to take a while for Jamaica to come back to the levels that it were prior to Hurricane Melissa, but we will track it and see how things pan out, because there's a lot of liquid cash there and also a lot of commitment for Jamaica to rebuild and rebuild stronger. So it has to be smart governance that leads the way. And the Prime Minister Andrew Holness is laying that out. So we'll see how that goes. This was a while back, and we're going to move forward into some 2026 announcements by the government as the year progresses. So I just wanted to remind you of what was said before, and then we're going to move into how things are moving, you know, as 2026 progresses. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a snowstorm in the United States, and right now it's happening, and we want to touch on that to show you some earlier forecasts and weather reports that's been going on, and I want you to see how they're tracking the storm. But I'll give you some more updates as tomorrow comes along. So here we go.
Event where at times it's just going to be difficult to keep up with keeping the roads open and going. That, by the way, is Interstate 40. Interstate 40 is almost a good divider line for a lot of us, where we're seeing the snow to the north and a wintry mix along and south of I-40. Let's give you a big picture as we look at the radar and the temperatures. You saw Mike Seidel there in Tulsa. By the way, you head a little farther to the north and you look at Kansas City. Kansas City, by the way, is at about 1 degree with a wind chill -13. When you look at Springfield, Missouri, you're looking at air temperature 4, feeling more like 21 below. You heard him talk about that cold air in place and how that's having an effect on what's going on. In fact, we even got a little bit of a lull here, a little dry spot here, but it's just too cold for the atmosphere to produce some of the snow. So what we're looking at in Dallas right now is the breeze and rain. You look over to Fort Worth and you're dealing with cloudy conditions. You go north of there, look at Denton, Texas, one of the universities here. We take a look at Texas Women's University, 19 degrees here. You're dealing with some snow and at times very low visibility. Then we take a look at Oklahoma City, all the way over to Fort Smith, Interstate 40 dealing with some snow. I-44 and Tulsa also dealing with snow-covered roads, taking it easy here. It's 8 degrees, but the wind chill is making it feel a whole lot colder than that. That bitter cold Arctic air, that high pressure continues to send in that cold air from the northeast, and that cold air is just not letting the air get a little more saturated where we want it to be to start to see the snow. Once that does happen, though, we'll start to see the snow pick up, and that means some big time snow totals for these areas to the north here, I-40 especially. There's Oklahoma City to Fort Smith. We do have some scattered snow out there, and by the way, these winter storm warnings are in place, and we also have a concern for us, these ice storm warnings for East Texas, northern Louisiana, into northwestern Mississippi, and west and east Tennessee as well. Of course, the Lone Star State, when you look at this, we've got this winter storm warning this morning, and this historic storm already forcing more than 1,200 cancellations at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport alone. Statewide power outages are hovering at this point close to 20,000. And Melanie, we expect those numbers to go up in the day ahead.
Yeah, unfortunately, major travel impacts for the days to come. Fox weather meteorologist Bain Froney is live in Dallas for us with the latest. And Bain,
you can follow that as it progresses, ladies and gentlemen, throughout the night into tomorrow. We're going to cover a lot more of it. And let me just get that off the screen just a second, ladies and gentlemen. So let me this storm is of mega proportion, and it will be going all the way through the weekend, and it stems all from east to west of the United States. So that's 2,000 to 2,500 miles of distance. I don't know how wide it is, but it's stemming from the west coast to the east coast. So millions will be out of power. A lot of destruction is going to happen. A lot of ice and snow will be laid out over the next few days. So I'm going to follow that and let you know how things are progressing. I hope all of you out there, we pray for you who are in the way of the storm. I hope you're prepared and prepared well. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to, as we talk about destruction with the snow and so on, Congress also acted on mass migration. So we want to touch on that with Attorney Andrew Branca, just to bring you up to speed on U.S. immigration and what has happened inside of government, what they have done, and the attorney will lay that out to you in a big way. So let's get that on the screen. listen to this. This is extremely important. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
But I did want to share something interesting. It was a bill that's been proposed called the Remigration Act of 2026. I did not author this, but I thought it was very interesting and worth sharing with all of you as a model of a.
So there's a big deal on remigration, and that's if you want to leave the U.S. So listen to this carefully, because this is now a topic for discussion, because it's real. Here we go.
Mechanism by which America could save itself from this third world invasion. The account is White Papers Policy Institute. They do interesting stuff there. It's mostly about politics around, I guess I'd call it whiteness, and the inevitable conflict between the white first world and the non-white third world. The Remigration Act of 2025. Remigration is the most necessary policy of the modern era. Without it, there will be no future America. Our team has created a draft bill that we feel touches on many of the necessary reforms to enable remigration. The draft legislation creates many of the necessary programs to enable both mandatory remigration for criminals, frauds, welfare dependents, and voluntary remigration for the tens of millions of people that polling in recent years have consistently shown would leave the United States if they had the resources to leave. This draft legislation provides those resources to those populations. While there is certainly no room in this country for those immigrants and their descendants who lied, cheated, dissembled, and the core of this bill is about choice. Our remigration programs offer the unhappy and poorly integrated elements of the post-1965 immigrant and African-American populations the choice to depart the United States with money in the bank, less debt, and a world of opportunity before them. More importantly, though, this legislation represents a choice the American people can make to reverse much of the damage to our nation that the past 60 years of mass migration caused. Some context, they write. Many readers will go into this with skepticism. Remigration could never happen because many believe it lacks public support, that the American people are not aware of just how bad things are, or that there's no will among the remigration eligible population to actually leave the country. These are reasonable skepticisms given what we are presented with on a daily basis by the mass media, but the truth is that Americans are deeply skeptical of diversity and demographic change. And many of the recent immigrant groups and their descendants want to leave this country. Americans have become unhappy living in a country defined by liberal multiculturalism and demographic change. Between September of 2019 and September of 2024, the number of Americans who view diversity as a threat to American culture more than tripled, from 11% to 33%. Of course, that should be 100%, obviously. So we still have a ways to go, but at least people's eyes are being opened. They continue. This figure rises to 35% among whites and 43% among non-college educated whites. Another poll conducted by Gallup in July of 2024 shows that 55% of Americans want all immigration, including legal immigration, to decrease substantially. Furthermore, an Ipsos poll released one day before Trump's 2025 inauguration found that 66% of Americans support deporting all people who are in the country illegally. Only 66%. Well, it's in the nature of American politics that you never get everybody. There's always 20, 30% outliers. Then there are other polls that repeatedly confirm that some immigrants and many millions of their post-1965 descendants want to leave the United States. This even extends to the nation's oldest minority group, African Americans.
I have no idea.
So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to touch on that again in my next podcast. I want you to get the full brunt of that that overview from Attorney Andrew Branca. However, there's another video by Attorney Andrew Branca I want to touch on and share it briefly with you. And this is also about remigration. So check this out, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go.
Talking about illegals, remigration. Because the truth is, everybody has to go. Every third world savage in our country has to go home. They are oil and water with first world civilization. They cannot assimilate. They will not assimilate. They are robbing us blind, destroying our culture, degrading us to their own third world level of savagery. Everybody has to go. And this is the kind of messaging I was praying for from Trump. Now, words are words. We have to see action, but this is a pretty powerful word. White Papers, Policy Institute, 1960, 85% of America was white. Today, it's 54%. Why does that matter? Because first world civilization is built and sustained by white people. It doesn't mean you can't have some other ethnics in the mix like raisins in a cake, but the core of the country, of the culture, has to be white people. We're the only ones that have ever had a first world society that can ever sustain ours. And perhaps the biggest advantage we have coming into play right now, our greatest weapon other than Trump himself, and let's face it, Trump is here for another 3 years and then goes on into the sunset. Who knows what'll follow him? But another great weapon we have on our side, increasingly vocal and supportive, is none other than Elon Musk. Elon is reportedly going all in, funding Republicans to help President Trump take back full control in November midterms, because Elon understands what the stakes are. And he's not a natural-born American citizen, but he has a genuine love for America, and he knows that America is the last bastion of civilization.
So the conversation is now swirling, and it's real. So we got to have that conversation of what's going on here. But I'm going to dive into this a little bit more in my subsequent podcast, so we can have that conversation and have an educated conversation based on this remigration issue that's now on the table. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to check it out. Like, share, subscribe, comment, click the notification bell. We're going to dive into that because it's a serious conversation now that is on the table and it's being discussed. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. This is Nara Promotions, the Real Deal Podcast Show. Thank you for being here. We're going to continue. We're going to dive into some more U.S. immigration, and we're going to answer some questions for those who are asking certain questions and are trying. Let me get that lined up for you because my screen went on me, so things went awry earlier. So now let's talk about ICE, a leaked memo from ICE, and we're going to ask Attorney Brad Bernstein to dive into that for you and tell you a little bit more about what's going on where that is concerned. So let me get that on my screen here. Okay, here we go. I lost it earlier, so thank God I got it back. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brad Bernstein.
An internal ICE memo just leaked showing immigration officers are claiming they can just break into your home without a judge's warrant. And this isn't theory anymore. This just came out in the news yesterday, a leaked document that says ICE can just break into your home. And it's already happened, according to the news. They used a battering ram in Minneapolis to break into somebody's home without a warrant. And if the government can break into your home without a judge's warrant, then whatever happened to the Bill of Rights? We don't have 10 Bill of Rights anymore. We now have 9, because the Fourth Amendment, the one that protects your home, doesn't exist anymore. And for all you people out there who are like, yeah, go get the immigrants, they broke the law, they should just batter down their houses, don't fool yourself into thinking this is just about immigrants. If the government can do this to immigrants, wait till the IRS gets their hands on this rule. We heard you're cheating on your taxes. We're here to see if you got cash under your mattress. Take the battering ram out and rip down their door. Or the DEA says, Joe at the pizza place says you're a dealer. Let's break down the door and see what we find in your house. Because this is no longer law enforcement. This is unchecked government power. When I got into immigration law, it was to help people get green cards, fill out some forms, help them make a better life for themselves. Never in my wildest imagination did I believe that I'm now responsible, me and the other immigration lawyers, for making sure the Bill of Rights still exists and America still exists.
So there you go. That was Attorney Brad Bernstein. We're going to have that conversation also next week. So let's dive into the next video. Let me get that queued up for you. And this has to do with citizenship. There's some questions being asked, and Brad is going to answer those questions regarding your citizenship. Okay. So let's get that. Hold on a second. Let me get that queued up and get that ready to go, because as I said, I lost everything on my screen and we're lining that up again. So here we go. Let's get that going. I think I lost it, but I'll get it back. All right. So let's get this going. Oh, here we are. All right. So we got it. And we're going to bring it to your screen. So here are some questions that are being answered by Brad Bernstein. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
The facts, you guess, and I'm going to tell you the answer. You shoplifted at Macy's before you got your green card. You fully disclosed it. You filed a waiver. You became a permanent resident. 5 years later, you applied for citizenship, disclosed it again, and now you're a citizen for a decade. No. You disclosed it, you got a waiver, it was fully forgiven, you're safe. You became a U.S. citizen 10 years ago.
So the question is, are you losing your citizenship because of certain things that had happened? Brad is answering these questions, so let's kind of drop this back a little bit. Yeah, and then bring it.
You became a U.S. citizen 10 years ago. You later realized you forgot to list 2 speeding tickets on your naturalization application. Now you're terrified to travel. No, traffic tickets don't make you deportable. They don't show bad moral character. Immigration is not tracking speeding tickets at the airport. This was a de minimis mistake. You're safe. You have a clean record. You became a naturalized U.S. citizen. Years later, you go to prison for 5 years for defrauding a bank of $250,000. That's an aggravated felony under the immigration laws. No, even though that's an aggravated felony under immigration law, it happened after you became a citizen. They cannot denaturalize you for post-citizenship crimes. You entered the U.S. with fake documents. You were deported. You re-entered without inspection. Later you married, got your green card, and never disclosed the prior deportation or fraud. You became a U.S. citizen, no questions asked. Years later, Trump discovers the lie. Yes, potentially, because this is a major fraud in the naturalization process. Had immigration known the truth about your prior deportation, you would never have gotten a green card and you would never have become a U.S. citizen. Bottom line, the only real way to lose your U.S. citizenship is fraud in the naturalization process. Follow me for real immigration.
So there you go. Those questions are answered, ladies and gentlemen. And so let's get talk about ICE. I'm going to ask Brett. Let's go back to Attorney Brad Bernstein about what powers ICE have and what can be done. So let's share that with you again. Here we go. The Attorney Brad Bernstein back on your screen right now. And we're going to go, Brad.
Think about what the law really says. ICE does not have unlimited power. They cannot just pull you out of your car because you refuse to answer questions. Cannot force you to open your door just because they say, ICE, open the door. They need lawful authority. And lawful authority means one of only 2 things. First, a judicial warrant signed by a judge, not an ICE warrant, not a Homeland Security paper, a real court warrant. Or second, a real emergency, like hot pursuit or immediate danger to people around them. Immigration enforcement alone is not an emergency. Now, here's where people get it all wrong. ICE administrative warrants, forms I-200, I-205, do not authorize forced entry into your car. Saying ICE is not lawful authority. Threatening you is not lawful authority. And silence by you is not a crime. You're allowed to speak through your door. You can ask them to show the warrant through a window. If it's not signed by a judge, you don't have to open your door. Now listen very carefully. Things happen in the real world. If ICE opens your door anyway, don't fight them. Don't argue with them, and don't resist. You stay calm, you stay silent. Only words out of your mouth, I want a lawyer. If officers without legal authority enter your car, it's not what you fight on the street, it's where we fight it in court. Because street confrontations make things worse. Courtrooms are where you win your cases and where your rights are enforced.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from Attorney Brad Bernstein. Let's talk about advanced paroles. Those who have advanced paroles and are scared to use them, or they have questions surrounding advanced paroles. Let's ask Attorney Bernstein to talk about it and give you some updates and insights into that. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Attorney Brad Bernstein, once again.
Getting an advanced parole travel document is as safe as traveling on a visitor's visa or a student visa. Just like a visitor's visa or a student visa, when you get advanced parole, you've been authorized to cross back into the border from abroad into the United States. And the same laws apply to visitors visas, student visas, and advanced parole. Are you admissible? Unless you've done something that would prevent you from coming into the United States, a crime, fraud, you have something in your luggage like drugs, misrepresentation, you'll be allowed back in. When you come into the United States, they take you off the line and scare the hell out of you because the advanced parole is just a piece of paper. And then they bring you into secondary for about 5 minutes with 10 other people who are traveling with advanced parole. They check your piece of paper through the computer system, realize it's real and legit, and welcome you back.
So you heard it there, ladies and gentlemen. So just one moment. Let's get into green card holders. There's a lot of changes for green card holders that is going on right now. So you gotta be aware of your situation. I'm going to touch on that next week because this is a big deal where green card holders are concerned. So there's a lot for you to be aware of. So I'm going to touch on that next week because we're out of time. And we wanted to touch on some women issues that have come up. And I wanted to give you kind of an update as to what is going on around the world where women are concerned. I think I'm going to touch that in my next podcast because time has run out on us, and we don't want to keep the show going too long because we started late. It's 1:26 a.m. on a Sunday. So, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure to have you here. For all those who are listening, we thank you so much. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, click the notification bell. Always remember, pray going out, pray coming in, and always remember, God is in control. This is Naram Promotions, the Real Deal Podcast Show. As we say, thank you for being here and being a part of our show. It's always a blessing to have you on listening to my show. I'm going to try to keep it informative. Please always comment. Like, share, subscribe, comment, click the notification bell. We're gonna lead out with our closing anthem. We'll share that with you in a second. The closing anthem. There you go. We're gonna line that up. So we're gonna line that up for you and bring it to you. So closing anthem. Remember, we're going to be talking about the Alpart hourly workers, the former Alpart hourly workers. We're going to be dealing with how we're going to move forward in 2026. We're going to be talking about Jack Flower, the videographer, and also the audiographer. Who dealt with a lot of the recordings for the Jamaican Diaspora back in the days from the 80s forward. Get the library. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about other events and business in the next show. We're out of time at this point, so we're going to close the show. I would say thank you, God bless you all for being here. And Nara Promotion Studio Podcast Show as we continue on our global journey. So let's touch that right now, ladies and gentlemen. The closing anthem. Here we go. Here we go.
If you don't like me, I got everything that I need. Got my boots stained red with clay. Built this life my own damn way. I don't break, I don't fold. I've been the same since 10 years old. Working hard, don't ask for favors. Ain't got time for weak behavior.
Yeah!
From blood, sweat, and pain.
Goodness gracious.
Under wind and rain. Stand my ground, don't tread on me. I'm free as a man can be. Ain't got much for what I earn.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Nara Promotions, the real deal. We say the Real Deal Podcast Show. Are you ready? We're closing the show. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
If you don't like me,
goodness gracious me. I'm telling you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We say salute. Big up to all the Naram crew around the world. Big up to DJ Latza out there in the world. Every time, and we say big up to all the crew, Dragon Force, all the massives in Jamaica and around the world. We say thank you for being a part of the show. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, click the notification bell, and we'll see you at the next show. God bless. Naram Promotions is at you.